The Hidden Treasures of the Third Reich, History's Greatest Loot Introduction. On May 8, 1945, Germany signed its unconditional surrender. While that signature marked the official end of the war in Europe, it also signaled the start of a massive and mysterious search. Behind the front lines lay a looted continent, a trail of thousands of tons of stolen gold, millions of missing works of art, classified technology buried deep within mountains, and weapons abandoned on the ocean floor. What followed was a different kind of conflict, the War of the Discoveries. For 80 years, archaeologists, divers, and researchers have been uncovering layers of this hidden history. Each discovery, from panzers in German basements to artifacts behind hidden shelves in Buenos Aires, brings back a fraction of what the Nazi regime accumulated, hidden or submerged in its final flight. The Nazis did not just fight with bullets and steel. They systematically stripped Europe of its cultural heritage and financed their war machine with gold seized from the central banks of every nation they invaded. In the war's final months, they dispersed these reserves in mines, Alpine lakes, and submarines. Today, we dive into the account of the most shocking and valuable discoveries left behind by the Third Reich in its collapse. Aladdin's Cave under Thuringia, the Merkers Gold. Our journey begins on April 4, 1945, in the village of Merkers, Thuringia. At first glance, this region had no strategic importance, but beneath it lay what was likely the largest repository of concentrated wealth on the planet at that time. The decision to flee Berlin. The story of the Merkers Gold started 2 months earlier in the heart of Berlin. On February 3, 1945, nearly 1,000 B-17 bombers dropped 2,300 tons of explosives on the German capital. The Reichsbank's main building was hit directly 21 times. Although the vaults held, Walter Funk, the president of the bank, realized they would not survive another such attack, especially with the Soviet army advancing from the east. On February 9th, Funk ordered a total evacuation of the bank's reserves. Everything, gold, currency, and valuables, was to be moved to the Kaiserode potassium mine in Merkers. This mine featured 50 kilometers of tunnels dug into salt rock at a depth of 800 meters, making it virtually indestructible from the air. The massive transfer. The move required 13 train cars. The initial convoy carried 250 tons of gold bullion, coins, and 1,000 sacks of Reichsmark notes. More shipments followed, including collections from 14 German museums, and, most disturbingly, suitcases filled with jewelry and gold teeth confiscated from victims of the death camps. The discovery. The secret remained safe until April 6th, when military police intercepted 2 French women on a rural road. One of them, a former forced laborer, mentioned that there was gold inside the mine. She had personally worked unloading the boxes. Lieutenant Colonel William A. Russell went down personally to investigate. Descending 640 meters in a single cable elevator, he reached room 8. Behind a brick masonry entrance, his flashlight revealed thousands of sealed, numbered sacks stacked knee-deep. The inventory. The scale was staggering. The Allied inventory recorded 8,198 gold bars, hundreds of bags of gold and silver coins from multiple nations, and billions in currency. The total gold value was estimated at $250 million in 1945, representing over 93% of Germany's total remaining reserves. Key point: the geopolitical race. The extraction was a race against time. According to the Yalta agreements, Thuringia was to be part of the future Soviet occupation zone. If the Allies didn't move the treasure immediately, it would fall into the hands of the Red Army, In a massive operation involving 32 10-ton trucks, the gold was moved to Frankfurt. The artworks were eventually returned to museums, while the gold taken from Holocaust victims entered a complex restitution process that lasted decades. The art buried under the Alps. Altausee. While gold was hidden in salt mines, Adolf Hitler was pursuing a personal obsession: the Führer Museum. He envisioned a monumental museum in his hometown of Linz, Austria, which would be the largest in the world. To fill it, a team of experts spent years acquiring and confiscating works from across Europe in the largest cultural theft in history. The Mountain Sanctuary. As the bombing of German cities intensified, Hitler sought a safe haven for his collection. He chose the salt mine in Altausee, deep in the Austrian Alps. The tunnels provided perfect preservation conditions, a constant 8 degrees Celsius and low humidity. By 1945, Altausee housed 6,577 paintings, including masterpieces by Rembrandt, Vermeer, Rubens, and Leonardo da Vinci. Among the most famous pieces were Michelangelo's Madonna of Bruges and the Ghent altarpiece. Key point: the rebellion of the miners. As the Reich collapsed, Hitler issued the Nero Decree, ordering the destruction of all infrastructure. August I. Gruber, the local governor, interpreted this to include the art in Altausee. He ordered 8 massive wooden boxes, each containing half a ton of explosives, to be placed inside the mine. The boxes were falsely labeled "Caution Marble." The local miners realized the truth. They weren't just thinking of the art, they were thinking of their families' livelihoods. Destroying the mine would destroy the region's only industry. In a desperate and risky move, a group of miners led by Alois Raudaschel and Hermann König contacted Ernst Kaltenbrunner, the head of the Gestapo who was hiding in the region, to stop I. Gruber. In the early hours of May 4th, the miners removed the explosives and dynamited the mine's main entrances to block access for the destruction crews. When the U.S. Monuments men arrived days later, they found the world's greatest art collection saved by the defiance of ordinary workers. The Amber Chamber, the unsolved mystery. Not all stories of Nazi loot have a happy ending. The greatest loss remains the Amber Room, often called the Eighth Wonder of the World. Originally built in the 18th century, its walls were covered in orange Baltic amber, gold leaf, and mirrors. The theft. When Germany invaded the Soviet Union in 1941, the fragile panels were too difficult to move in time. Soviet curators tried to hide them behind paper and wadding, but the Nazi troops knew exactly what they were looking for. In days, SS specialists dismantled the room and shipped it to Königsberg Castle. The disappearance. The room remained on display until early 1945. As the Red Army closed in on Königsberg, the trail went cold. The castle was devastated by fire and combat, and the museum's director died shortly after, taking the secret of the room's location to his grave. For decades, investigators have searched mines, tunnels, and even the bottom of the Baltic Sea. While a few original fragments surfaced on the black market in the 1990s, stolen by an SS officer as personal loot, the original room, valued at up to $500 million, has never been found. The plunder to the east. The scale of cultural destruction in the Soviet Union was almost incomprehensible. Over 400 museums were destroyed, and libraries lost 115 million printed works. The official catalog of stolen goods from the Soviet Union lists over 1.1 million objects. The Peterhof Gardens. One notable case was the Imperial Palace of Peterhof. Before the Germans arrived, workers buried many of the garden's famous bronze sculptures. However, when the palace was liberated in 1944, major pieces like the iconic statue of Samson had vanished without a trace. While some paintings have surfaced in antique markets decades later, thousands of masterworks remain unlocated. The room behind the bookshelf. The Argentine connection. While much of the search focuses on Europe, a shocking discovery in 2017 proved that the Nazi legacy reached far across the Atlantic. In the residential neighborhood of Becar, near Buenos Aires, Interpol agents were investigating the trafficking of Chinese antiques. The hidden passage. Inside the home of antique dealer Carlos Alberto Olivares, agents noticed a white bookshelf with no books. When they pushed it, they found a hidden door leading to a secret room. Inside was the largest collection of Nazi artifacts ever seized in Argentina. 83 pieces, most of them verified originals. Disturbing relics. The collection included busts of Hitler, imperial eagles, and even toys designed to indoctrinate children. Most disturbing of all were the medical instruments. Dark leather cases containing anthropometric measuring devices, including a skull measuring compass, identical to those used by camp doctors like Josef Mengele to classify victims by race. Key point: why Argentina? Argentina was a known haven for fleeing Nazis. Criminals like Josef Mengele and Adolf Eichmann lived there for years under assumed names. The presence of such high-ranking personal items suggests that high-level Nazi collections were smuggled into the country, along with the war criminals themselves. Conclusion: the fall of the Third Reich left behind a puzzle whose pieces are scattered across the globe, from the bottom of the ocean to secret rooms in South America. As historian Greg Bradshaw noted, the total restitution of what was stolen will likely never be achieved. Time, war, and the silence of the guilty have erased too many traces. Every new discovery, whether a gold bar in a mountain or a painting in a basement, serves as a brutal reminder of the scale of the theft and the human cost behind these treasures. The search continues, for what remains hidden is not just wealth, but the physical evidence of one of history's darkest chapters.